Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 73, A Force to be Reckoned with. I, of course, am your host, not Jay, as you all know. Our guest will be on shortly. We hope. Having a little bit of technical difficulties. His computer is not recognizing his microphone right now, which would lead to be a little difficult to have an interview if we can't talk to him. So while we are waiting for our illustrious guests, let's just go ahead and take a look at a couple of comments. Crossing Obstacles Gaming, all the way over, again, I believe from Sweden. He says, have to watch this on replay. I've been wanting to check out Force on Force for a long time now. Have a fun stream, everybody. Yes, so we are going to be talking about Force on Force tonight with Shawn Carpenter once he gets his technical issues all worked out. Pardon me while I take a drink of red cola here. Let's see here. Chris Long A says, is it time yet? Keeping in mind that was at 6:54, an hour and 6 minutes before we were going live. I think somebody is just a little excited. Tucker Shadow down in Australia says, yeah, I'm going to miss this live. It's like the world conspires against me exactly at 11 a.m. every Thursday. Sorry to hear that. But you know what? We'll be glad to have you when you catch it on the replays. Mark McKinley. I dig Force on Force, and Ambush Alley Games is working on bringing it back. Yes. Mark, welcome. I don't believe I've seen you here before. So welcome. Glad you could join us. Paul, glad you're here, PB. Hello. Looking forward to this one. So am I. Hopefully we can get his mic working and we can get this road on the show. Dave Hall in the house. Good evening. Good evening to you, sir. John Longshore. Haven't seen you for a while. Glad you're here, John. Wave back. Chuck, evening all. Hello, Chuck. Mark McKinnon says, woohoo, Shawn in the house. Not quite yet. We're still working on it. Dave L., another new name. Evening. Glad you could join us. Reese, late to the party. Well, you know what? So is the guest of honor. So don't worry. You haven't missed a thing. And then Dave L. says, I remember when Ambush Alley came out. Never checked out Force on Force, which was a revised version of Ambush Alley, if I recall. Should be fun. Yeah. So, and I've talked with Shawn before in a previous YouTube life when I was part of Rocky's War Room. And he's talked about it before, how they had Ambush Alley, and some way or another they got into communication with Osprey, and Osprey decided, hey, you know what? Let's rework this and put it out as a hardback under the Osprey Games name, and we'll provide all kinds of great pictures, and you provide great photos of miniatures, and we'll make it a really smash up game. And oh, by the way, we want a crap ton of supplements as well in a very short amount of time. He will go into that a bit later once he gets on. We've got plenty of time to talk about it. So yeah, it's Force on Force is not really a second edition of Ambush Alley, because there are some differences, and he can talk about that more in detail once we get going. But yeah, while we're waiting, I am going to go ahead and discuss what my plans are for what's going on with Force on Force. And I have created a scenario loosely based off of the actions of the 36th Infantry Division around Monte La Mar. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was G Company of the 143rd Infantry, 143rd Infantry Regiment, 36th Infantry Division, and one of the soldiers at the time was a tech sergeant. At the time of the award, was a lieutenant. He was awarded uh, the Medal of Honor for just about single-handedly taking out 2 German machine gun nests and saving 7 of his soldiers. It's pretty good. So I have put together loosely 2 squads of Americans, and then 2 machine gun nests, and for the Germans, and an additional squad of riflemen for them to go up against in 15 millimeter. This is all around Monte La Mar after Operation Dragoon, which is a seriously underserved theater from World War II. For those that don't know, that was the D-Day in the south of France. It was supposed to have happened the same day as D-Day in Normandy. However, it was put off because they didn't have enough landing craft. The Americans and the Brits did not have enough landing craft to be able to do both Normandy and down around Marseille, coming to north. So they put it off until September, when they landed the 36th, the 45th, the 3rd of the American Army, and Canadians and Brits, I believe the 50th. I'll have to take a look. I can't remember. Let's see here. Mark McKinley says it was an interesting time when Shawn signed on with Osprey. Ambush Alley was World War II initially, if I recall. Actually, Ambush Alley was initially Vietnam. It was their way of doing the asymmetric combat that you saw with the Americans versus the Viet Cong. When Force on Force came out, Bolt Action was out as well, and kind of locked out Shawn from doing a World War II version for Osprey. Wasn't Audie Murphy around there? Yeah, he was there with the 3rd Infantry, although he is a Texan, and he eventually ended up in the 36th Infantry after World War II. He was with the 3rd Infantry during World War II, where he got all of his honors and citations and awards. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining. Glad you're here. We're waiting patiently for Shawn. He's having some issues with his microphones on his computer. So I'm cussing and discussing some things that I have going on. So where I'm going to be running that scenario is the scenario that I just talked about is going to be at Battles and Brews, which is the end of July. Jay Wiley and Wiley Games is hosting it. It's going to be 5 game sessions over the course of Friday and Saturday. They're in the basement of a brew pub in Independence, Missouri. And Jay Wiley has specifically asked for people to bring games that are not Fistful of Lead, which is perfect. Y'all know I love Fistful of Lead, but I love Force on Force as well. Now, I did not get into Force on Force originally when it was pardon me. I'm going to grab some books here. I should say I should say I did not get into Ambush Alley when it first came out. But I did get into Force on Force. This book right here. It's a great book. All my copies are signed, which Shawn will say diminishes the quality or the value. Let's see. This was all the way back in 2011, so this is 11 years old, guys. With Osprey, now Ambush Alley goes back even farther. Force on Force Modern Warfare games. It is the first book has a lot of Iraq, Afghanistan War on Terror, but it also has a lot of other stuff as well. So let's see. So yeah, here's Vietnam, 1994 Chechen War, Top Malo, which is Argentine and Brits in the Falklands, Birds and Bees, 1966. Yeah, that's definitely Vietnam. So yeah, you could buy the book and you had everything you needed to except for miniatures and dice and whatnot. But it was a complete game. The thing that really drew me to the game, there are no points. There are no point values. It's scenario driven. That's what I like about it. It you tell a story with your game. I love and that's why I like Fistful of Lead. That's why I like Force on Force. That's why I like Stargrunt, which I think he's even mentioned it, that Stargrunt is a big influence to Ambush Alley and Force on Force. And then they started coming out with their campaign books. I don't remember what order they came in. Let's see. There's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 7, 6, 7. I don't know where number 8 is. I do have it, but here they are. He's here, but it says devices are disconnected. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. 1 second, guys. I'm going to message him. Devices are disconnected. He's joined, but we're still waiting. Let's see. Ludum Press is here. Hello. Hi, all. Stargrunt +1. Yes, Stargrunt's a great game. I love it. John Teflon made a great universe. Hold on 1 second. What browser are using? Walkabout Games. Dice mechanics is what brought me to the rules. Yeah, we'll talk about that here shortly. Dave Elsa's. He's gonna get Chrome loaded and go with that. Love Stargrunt. Yeah, it's a great game. It's one of my favorites. In fact, one of my best buddies, Joel, is actually running a Star Grunt game this Saturday. Unfortunately, it's in Kansas City, and I'm going to miss it. So there's that. Paul says, me too, Chris. I believe he's referring to having the books. Chris Long says, hello, Paul. And I ran Mega Travel in the Tufflyverse for years. Yeah, it's a great, amazing game. And the reason why I have a crap ton of green 6-sided dice, a crap ton of blue 8-sided dice, a crap ton of white wishing they were orange-sided dice, and a crap ton of red 12-sided dice is because of Force on Force and Star Grunt. I dig the dice mechanics too. Always wanted to feel the 4-man A team rolling D12s versus lots of insurgents rolling D6s. Yeah, that I believe I've run that once or played in it once, and it was egregious. It was so, oh man. So, but let's just go ahead and look at. They started their first book, their first companion book was Road to Baghdad. Force on Force Companion Book 1, and it came out, I think, almost at the same time. Yeah, it's a 2011, so it came out almost at the same time. Great book. It comes in with 104 pages and 17 scenarios. And with simple organizations, you got UK British Army, British Royal Marines, United States Marine Corps, Army, and then the Iraqi military and military, regular Army, Republican Guard, and just paramilitary organizations. Then they went to Enduring Freedom. Now, my brother gets a credit here. Open it up here. Come on. Damn it. He gets I believe he gets a playtesting credit. Hello, Shawn.
Hey, hello. Sorry about that.
That is okay.
I'm going to struggle with the camera, but I got the microphone to work.
Hey, that's good enough. I've got all the, I got all the books and everything to show off. What I've been doing to kill time is kind of showing everybody what I've got. We got a lot of excited people here tonight. So let me just go through real quickly with you. Crossing Obstacles Gaming. He's one of my regular viewers. He lives over in Sweden. He's got his own YouTube channel and does some good stuff. He has to catch it on the replay for obvious reasons because he's 7 or 8 hours ahead of us.
Right.
Walkabout Games. Chris Long. He is up in northern BC, Canada. Loves the game. It was. He's been messaging me all day. Really excited about it. Tiger Shadows from Australia, the east coast of Australia. He's got to watch it on. Replay also.
Right.
Mark McKinley. I have not seen him here before, so I don't know if you drug him here or what caused him to show up. But hey, I'm happy to have him. He says that he digs Force on Force and Ambush Alley Games, is working on bringing it back.
Yep.
Paul Beckus is another one of my Australian fans. I say fans. I guess he's a fan. He shows up every damn week. He's not in the hospital, and even sometimes when he is in the hospital. Paul, I'm hoping you're getting to feeling better. He lives on the West Coast around Perth. He says, hello, looking forward to this one. Dave Hall says, good evening. John Longshore gives us a wave. John Longshore is a Michigander. Chuck's from San Diego. Mark back in. Woohoo! Shawn into house. He is finally.
Yeah, I
He is
made it.
finally. 20 minutes in, but you know what? Hey, better late than never. Hey, at least you're not dodging a tornado tonight.
No, that was good. Although a thunderstorm would be nice to knock this temperature back down.
Yeah. Dave L also says evening. Reese he's really interested in it. I turned him on to Force on Force on a couple of shows ago when I was just talking about it in general, and so he's excited. He's a solo gamer and also he plays in 54 millimeter.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, so Reese is a good kid. I say kid, he's mid-20s. To us, he's a kid.
Right. Everyone's a kid to us nowadays.
Yeah. Dave L also says, I remember when Ambush Alley came out, never checked out Force on Force, which was a revised version of Ambush Alley, if I recall. Should be fun. And then hello all again. It was an interesting time when Shawn signed on with Osprey. Ambush Alley was World War II initially, if I recall. Now, if I remember, wasn't Ambush Alley originally Vietnam?
No. Ambush Alley was originally GWAT.
Okay.
I mean, it was literally what we were watching on the news at the time. Now, when we did our Force on the first edition of Force on Force, the pre-Osprey version of Force on Force, we had enough people that were wanting to see World War II added in that we included some really basic rules for using the game in World War II, which really doesn't require a lot, to make it suitable. And then we put out Ambush Valley, which was because we were trying to be cute and instead confused a lot of people. But
you either get it or you don't.
Yeah, and then when we got when the Osprey deal happened, we re-released Ambush Valley, and so Osprey was actually there it is. Osprey was actually the second edition of Force on Force. So I see everybody talking about the second edition of Force on Force. This will actually be the third edition of Force on Force. That Ambush Valley book, by the way, our first book, the non-Osprey version was a good book, but the one that we put together for Osprey, that's actually one of the books I'm proudest of. There's
this one is
gigantic
amazing.
Amount of research in that.
Guys, just to kind of give you an idea, it's got 177 pages, which includes a glossary, bibliography, and the Fog of War and booby trap cards. It's got 6 scenarios, vehicles. It talks about the 63 to 64. The advisory period talks about 65 to 75. Our high point or low point, as the case may be.
Right.
And then the unit organizations, y'all have the U.S. in here. You got basic armor, miscellaneous armor. We've got the Cavs. You've got Republic of Vietnam. You got Anzacs, ROK, Thailand, Philippines, Special Forces, Navy SEALs, South Vietnam. It goes on and on. I mean, even if you is this PDF still available?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so you're going to be hard pressed. You're going to be paying the piper heavily if you want it in hardback, or not hardback, but hard copy. But even if you aren't interested in the game, which you should be because it's a great game, but you like Vietnam, this is not just a scenario book, but it is a source book for Vietnam. It is just beautiful.
It really has the least scenarios in it of any of our books because Osprey was getting mad at us because it was getting too big. So we had to, cut something out.
Yeah.
And we had a gentleman working with us, and I'm my age is showing here because I can't for the life of me remember his name. He's in there as as one of the co-authors.
Piers Joseph
Joseph
Trevenick.
Yeah, Joseph Trevenick. At the time, he was working for one of the big military websites, and he had access to all kinds of stuff that had only just been released through the I'm having one of those days. It's going to be a great interview because I can't speak.
That's okay.
There was a ton of information in there that was absolutely brand new, even at as late a date as the book was done. And it's probably the most thorough treatment of the organizations and organizational capabilities of the entire theater in existence. It's an amazing book. I'm very proud of that book. And Joe deserves the credit for that, because that's not me tooting my own horn.
Right.
Joe did all of that work, and it's amazing. There's stuff in there that I had never even heard of. I didn't know anything about. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So go ahead and go through this real quick. Reese said wasn't Audie Murphy around there? And the reason he brought that up is I was talking about the scenario that I wrote and I'm going to be running at the end of July at Battles and Brews. It's a gaming event being put on by Jay Wiley from Wiley Games, and I looked through the history of the 36th Infantry Division, looked at all of the recipients of Medal of Honor, and found one right there in Monte La Mar, right after Operation Dragoon in the south of France, where a single tech sergeant with some support essentially single-handedly took out 2 German machine guns to basically save 7 of his men. So I've written a scenario loosely based off of that to play in 15 millimeter. Probably going to be on a 3x3 table, which I think is perfect in 15 millimeter.
Oh yeah.
I'll take plenty of photos and get it posted once I get them.
Was that the action? I can't remember exactly where Murphy was. Is that Murphy's action, or is that somebody else?
No, Audie Murphy was part of the 3rd Infantry at the time. Same landings, same area. What his deal was is he took out a couple of machine gun nests with hand grenades, and then got on the back of a burning M10 and used the 50 cal on the turret to continue removing Germans from life.
Right. Yeah.
So that was his gig.
All 5'4" of him, or whatever it was. Yeah.
Mean little cuss. Mike Tracy, Irish Marine, is with us.
Hey, Mike.
It says Piers wrote the Force on Force nom. Yeah, Piers was part of the author team, but
and he was the main author on the original Ambush Valley, the one that we did prior to Osprey. Yeah, and Pierce contributed a ton to that book too. Don't get me wrong. Pierce is he's neck deep in that book. There's most of the miniatures photos are for Pierce. I think he did a lot of the scenarios. Mikey did a lot of the scenarios for it too. Pierce is a great guy.
Yeah. And actually he painted up some American and British miniatures just to get some photos for the scenario that my brother and I wrote for Classified book, the last book of the Companions.
Yep.
Which I thought, I wasn't going to be able to paint that good. So,
no, I can't paint like Pierce either, especially now.
So Mike says when Ambush Alley started, I believe it was modern Iraq and not Vietnam.
That's
Yes,
correct.
Mike, you are correct. Dave also, I thought the first AA was Iraq. Yeah, Dave, yep, all of y'all are correct. I was mistook. Let them press comes in. Oh, reason why we're talking about Starground is I made mention that I believe at some point in time you've actually stated that you have a little bit more than just a touch of inspiration from Stargrunt.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. There's two places that I got the inspiration for the mechanics from, and the primary source, which is bizarre, was not a war game at all. It was a role playing game. There's a role playing game called Seventh Sea that the original version of it, basically used polyhedral dice the same way that we use it, and I had played not Stargrunt, but Dirt Side way back when.
The armor game.
Yeah. And then I picked up a copy of Stargrunt, to check it out, and was like, oh yeah, he's doing the same thing, so we can't be too far wrong. And John and I haven't talked to him in years. I actually should reach out to him and talk to him. It's been a while since I've spoke to him, but John and I are, pretty good friends. In fact, he wrote the introduction to our Tomorrow's War. And he said that, which is a super nice thing for somebody that's as good a designer as John. He said that Tomorrow's War was the spiritual successor of Stargrunt.
Right there.
Mr. Tuffley. And he, we also for a while were putting out miniatures that were, GZG miniatures specifically for Tomorrow's War. And
I believe they're still available on his website.
Yeah, you can still get them on his website. They're absolutely still there. It's just we haven't really. We got to the point where it was like, he had such a huge line of existing miniatures that it got to feeling kind of silly to, put out miniatures, especially from his viewpoint as a running a business, to hire somebody to put out a bunch of stuff when there was all these existing figure lines that we could use for the other forces, and we had the U.S. and Brazil and the darks and everything covered. So yeah, was a sheer pleasure to work with John and Jeff Titchener at QRF Miniatures. Also, big early supporter of our game. I don't even know how many hundreds of dollars of miniatures he shipped me for free, that we could use in our different books and stuff.
Yeah.
So, he's also a great guy. I love Jeff.
So, go ahead and just run through a couple more of these comments, and then we'll dive in and see what's going on.
All right.
I think the dice mechanics too. Always wanted to field a 4-man A team rolling D12s versus lots of insurgents rolling D6s.
That'll be a bloodbath.
Yeah, and I have played one of those, and it is it's not too pretty on the D6 side.
No.
Unless you're me and you roll horribly, no matter what dice you're rolling. So yeah, a 1 is always a 1.
A 1 is a 1, man. That's good.
Chuck says, I don't know anything about tonight's subject, so I'll be quiet and behave. Chuck, you don't have to. Your family, buddy. Just jump in and ask any questions you want. Don't be shy. Chris Long says, my last game was Canadian 4th Mech Brigade 1987 versus Soviet Motorized Infantry. It was a blast.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I bet that was a fun
and he says, yay, Shawn.
Hey.
Says he said, yeah, didn't Piers help with Ambush Valley? Yes, he did. Yeah, Reese, I don't remember the pricing on the PDF. I could look it up real quick.
It's they're all in the I can't remember. It's $15-$20, something like that.
It is well worth the money. Trust me. Especially with he's been doing 24 millimeter or 54 millimeter 135th scale Vietnam.
Sweet.
And his stuff looks great.
We always wanted to do that. My brother and I, Robbie, he's one of the co-designers. We always wanted to do a 135th scale game. The problem was we were just like, oh, it's so expensive, and so much room. And I mean, we were like pulling our hair out when we switched over to 20 millimeter because we were used to being able to play everything on the, on a 2 or 3 foot square table, and suddenly we needed, minimum of 4x4. But it's
right.
It's where everybody's head was at the time, so we kind of had to go there with them. But which, don't get me wrong, 20 millimeter, great stuff, and obviously we've had some fantastic 20 millimeter stuff, cast for us. So
yeah,
Elheim, fantastic job at Elheim stuff. He never sees well, and now that he's doing the the 3D drafting, now that he's basically CAD drafting them, holy heck! See how I reeled that back in and didn't talk like I normally speak? Holy heck! Oh darn!
I don't give a fuck.
Well, that's good because I'm bound to slip up and drop some F-bombs as we move along.
If I remember correctly, not only are you former Air Force, but you're former SP Air Force, right?
Right.
So it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. And I've worked in the public safety industry for, I don't know, over 20 years. So I'm used to talking to cops and firemen.
Well, one of the guys who comes on the show regularly, unfortunately, he's on duty tonight. He's a police officer, so but he's one of my gaming buddies
cool.
Here about 2 hours south of me in St. Louis. Reese, they're actually in Enid, Oklahoma, about 2.5, 3 hours north and a little west of Oklahoma City. But he says that he's in Northwest Arkansas if you still want to play 54 millimeter Vietnam.
Oh, cool. Well, that's not too far away.
Yeah. And then Walkabout Games says Elheim is now selling STLs for 3D printing. It's really nice. Oh, hey.
I know. I need to get a printer just for that. I saw that the other day and was like, oh, if now that I'm working again, maybe I can do that.
Yeah. Well, you can get an Elegoo Mars 3 damn cheap in comparison to what they've been. It's definitely less than 300, could be less than 250, and if you're lucky, you could almost get it for under 200.
Dang, I'll definitely have to check that out because I need one. There's so much stuff.
Yeah, Elegoo Mars is the way to go, in my opinion.
All right, well, I'll hit you up after the show and get more information
absolutely.
about that.
Yeah. So Dave L says he'd love to hear about the early development of First Ambush Alley.
Okay.
I remember seeing it on TMP sometime around 2006 or 2007, maybe.
That's exactly.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about that.
All right. Well, it's what do they say about necessity being the mother of invention? That's kind of what that's where Ambush Alley came from. My brother and I had both been big time miniature gamers of the Warhammer 40K variety back in the 80s when it first came out. And my work had taken me away from Enid for 10 years, over 10 years probably. So we got back together and we were both like, man, it would really be cool to miniature game again, but neither one of us wanted to pay what you had to play 40K again, which was nothing in 2006 compared to what it is now. But we thought it was expensive in 2006. We should have held on for the ride. But in any case, so we started trying out all kinds of different rules, and we wanted to play sci-fi. I mean, that was our thing. And initially, what we wanted to do was we wanted to get away from the space opera style, 40K game, science sci-fi, and do more of the, kind of nitty gritty, realistic, sci-fi. So that, of course, led immediately to, trying out Stargrant and stuff. And Stargrant's a great system. There were things about it that just didn't quite click for us. And nothing else we tried did either, So finally, we were standing out on my front porch, and my front porch at that time was very much like the intro to King of the Hill, except it was just me and Robbie. We were all of the characters wrapped up into two people,
right?
But we'd stand out there on the front porch and drink whatever we were drinking at the time, and solve all the world's problems. And we were out there talking one night, and Robbie said, well, we ought to just make our own damn game. We know what we want out of a game. Why don't we just make our own game? We've been playing games for, since the since the middle 70s, we've been playing games. So why don't we just come up with our own? So that's what we did. I mean, we sat down and, our design approach was literally, we sat down and we put together a page of what we wanted the system to do and what we didn't want it to do. And if you go look, the original version of Ambush Alley is available, as a PDF. Not trying to flog it to you guys, but it's out there if you're interested in the history. And it actually has. There's a page in the intro where we say, here's what we wanted and here's what we didn't want. And that's basically the cleaned up version of what we started with. And originally had this super cool idea that I thought was going to completely revolutionize miniature gaming as we knew it at the time, and probably make me super rich. And I'd come up with this idea how you could roll like 4 different dice, and it would tell you everything that you needed to know in one roll. It would tell you whether or not you hit, and how many casualties you caused, and if you were rolling on the defense, it would tell you, what your morale state was, and just all kinds of different stuff. And I had it all worked out, and we sat down to play it, and we did like one round of combat, and Robbie said, wow, this is some bullshit, man. This is terrible. What are we thinking? This is awful. And I was like, yeah, this is really, really bad. We need to start over, and do something simpler. So we decided to make it as simple as possible. And one of the first things that we settled on, one of the first big design philosophies we came up with was roll a 4.
Yeah.
Roll a 4. No fancy target numbers, no big bunches of modifiers. I mean, there's modifiers in there, but nothing too complex. Just roll a 4 to see if it works. And that worked real well as a base target number for all of the dice that we were using. I mean, the shift is not completely uniform, but it's fairly uniform across there. So here's a description of our game lab. At the time, I was living in this big sprawling house that had been built in like the 1920s that I was renting for nothing here in Enid. And I had this whole formal dining room in it, which this is going to sound much more impressive to you than it actually was, because the place was not a mansion by any stretch of the imagination. And so that became our game lab. I mean, and it had these neat pocket doors that closed, so I could close them up and the kids couldn't get in there and bug us and stuff. So we put in a big 4x8 foot table, and basically our design process was we came up with the basic rules. We played a little bit of a game. We'd play a game using the basic rules, and then we'd say, okay, we need rules to cover this. And we'd plug those in, and we'd try it again. And if it didn't break anything, we'd say, okay, add that to the rule book. And if it did break something, we'd start over. So it was basically, a game that we designed as we went along, specifically to create the experience that we wanted. What we thought would be fun in a role playing game, or not a role playing game, in a miniatures game. And it was interesting because in those TMP days, I said that. I said, look, I'm not designing a game. We're getting ready to release this game, and we hope you like it. It was designed, specifically to be fun for us to play. And people were like, oh, that's the worst kind of game you can design. That's terrible. It's going to be, so much negativity on TMP back then. And I'm assuming probably. Well, I was going to say, I'm assuming probably still, but I haven't gone on to TMP for since 2009 or something, I think.
Yeah, so, I think it's been a while since I've dipped my toe into that cesspool.
And so we ended up with a workable game, and it was really interesting. We didn't have any money, we had no sponsors or anything like that to help us get the thing published, but we just happened to hit at that right point in history where digital publishing was taken off, and it had made it into the game world. So I said, you know what, we're just going to sell this thing as a digital game, and so that's what we did. And then people were like, when I announced that again on TMP, because that was my main form of marketing at the time was TMP, people were like, well, how much are you going to charge for it? And I said, I think $15 or $20. I don't remember, something like that, 15 or 20. And they were all like, there is no damn way I'll ever pay more than $5 for a PDF. Anybody, that's too much, and I said, that's okay. Be that as it may, that's what we're going to charge. Well, you're never going to sell any. So long story short, we put it up for sale. I announced on TMP that it was for sale. And we really didn't expect to sell very many copies, just because, we just didn't think it was going to be. Our main goal at that point in time was to make a little bit of money that we could use to buy miniatures with. Literally the goal of the game company was to support our habit. So it was like selling drugs. We're going to sell these drugs so we can afford to buy these drugs. And put it up, and in the first, I put it up for sale on a Friday night, and in the first weekend we sold 300-400 copies of it. So I said, you know what, this may actually be a business.
Yeah, this could be something. That BS that I tried before that I said might be popular. Forget that. This could actually work. Yeah.
And it was based on our success, as an independent company, that, that's what attracted Osprey's attention, and that's what got us the Osprey deal. Joe McCullough, the guy that the leprechaun is what I always call him, because that's what he looks like. He worked for Osprey at the time. He was our champion. He went to him and said, hey, I bought this game and it's really cool, and I think, that we should make a deal with these guys. He's the author of Frostgrave, by the way, if any of you guys.
Yeah, Frostgrave and Stargrave.
And Rangers of the Dark, something, I can't remember the name of the other one. He does one about Rangers too. But anyway, great guy. And he got us, he was in there pitching for us, and that's what got us the Osprey deal. So,
outstanding. Yeah. Going to hit up some of these comments again. I don't know if you.
That's really cool, Mark. That's neat.
Yeah, it says still have the Force on Force Messenger bag the booth was selling at Historicon at Valley Forge. I normally have a really active message board over here, so. Mike Tracy says the first cover of Tomorrow's War was the best.
Yes, it was, and I really, really wanted that to be the cover of Tomorrow's War. And there was the Osprey version, and unfortunately, the artist and Osprey could not come to terms. So we had to go with the cover that Osprey did, which my overall experience with Osprey was really good, But for those of for those of you who are out there who played any of the Games Workshop stuff, doesn't that look like Necromunda? Doesn't that look like a Necromunda cover?
That or yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a damn Necromunda cover.
You're on a hive world of some nature there.
And I hated it, and I didn't have any choice in it. So that's the cover we ended up with.
Now the cover for by Dagger or Talon, I did.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good one. That's by a guy named Tom Simmons that we work with. We've been doing some RPG sales too, and he did the cover and some artwork for us for one of the RPG books that we put out, which is out of print. So I'm not going to flog it at you. But he does exceptional work. He did the cover that we will probably use on whatever we call the third edition of Force on Force once we let it out. And it's a outstanding cover. I think it's actually I think a better cover than by Dagger or Talon.
So
and I think that's a good cover. But
yeah, for those of y'all interested, that is what the by Dagger or Talon cover looks like.
B dot. That's what we call it. B dot.
Now, what I want to call them like Durgar.
How's it pronounced? It's pronounced Dargour.
Dargour. There you go. I loved the concept of these aliens. I love how their horns or antlers had the more pointy bits they had, the higher rank they were.
Mm-hmm.
I in the miniatures that GCG came out with were just phenomenal. I thought they were really cool.
Yeah, he pretty much nailed it. People either love the Dargour or they hate him.
I think they're pissed off little turtles with horns.
That's what we hear a lot. Is like, oh, there's just the Ninja Turtles with guns and antlers, and it's like, well,
hey,
okay, yeah,
I dig it.
Except they're like 10 feet tall if they weren't walking in the stoop, and they probably weigh 700 pounds. But sure,
right. My buddy Todd jumped in real quickly. He's spending time with the wife. It's her birthday tonight, but just dropping in to say hello.
Oh, cool.
Hello. Back to the B-Day stuff.
That's the most important part.
Drive-by up thumbing. Everyone be sure to give the video a sub and a thumb. Yes, please. And then he says bye. Chris Long, it's still bad on TMP.
Didn't figure it was going to change.
Yeah. Paul says, I think I heard you on that old Meeples and Miniatures podcast, and I went from there.
Yeah, I was on Meeples and Miniatures several times. Yeah.
Neil. If I remember correctly, the first time I heard you was in Neil's whisper phase.
Yes. So, it was very quiet.
And there was a reason for that. His wife was doing shift work as a nurse. So whenever he recorded, he had to be quiet.
Well, again, that goes right along with that birthday thing. Keep the wife happy and life goes smoothly. Yeah.
Exactly. Chris Long says Joe's an awesome guy.
He sure is. Yeah.
That's an amazing cover on Talon. Yes, it is. I really like it. Now, how I learned about Force on Force, Ambush Alley, whatever you want to call it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was at Recruits.
And
everybody that watches the show, that has watched the show, for some of you new guys, you'll hear this for the first time, and then you'll hear it every other time I talk about it. But Recruits is my still favorite convention. I've got a close second now, but it is my all-time favorite convention.
Huh. What happened?
All right, I'm back. You touched the wrong button on your computer and you just zip away.
Was that you or me?
That was me.
Okay.
So I'm at Recruits. It's actually held at my alma mater, high school in Lee Summit, Missouri, Lee Summit High School. I'm back, Dave. I'm back. Don't worry about it. And to get in for the entire weekend, it's $5.
Yeah.
If you're not a student, you can't beat that with a drum. So I was there, and I bought a raffle ticket, and my name got called, and I won a U.S. Army infantry platoon in 15 millimeter from Rebel Minis.
Right.
And it was carded specifically for Force on Force. And I'm like, Force on Force? What is this? So I go up to I go up to Dwayne, who was running the show, and say, "What is this Force on Force?" Oh man, I gotta tell you about Force on Force. And if I remember correctly, you were at that particular show, and he came up and introduced us, and we started talking. I was like, "Oh, okay, great." And I dove in deep and hard. I just
yeah. We made a lot of our big core, hardcore fans. We met at Recruits, and it's funny too because I've got guys that message me and talk to me every so often. That when I met them, they were like 15 years old.
Yeah,
they're grown people now.
Yeah.
And
let's see here.
and it's funny, but I loved Recruits. We were regulars there for quite a while.
Well, Recruits is back this year. Maybe we'll be able to get to see you there. But my other big convention, and I shouldn't say big convention because it's not a big convention. We just started it last year, and it's and again, if you've been with me since March, even before March, you've heard about it. It's March to Victory. It's in Blue Springs, last weekend of March every year. Last year was the first year, but moving forward, it's going to be every year. Mm-hmm. It is put on by Jay Wiley and Wiley Games, but all games are allowed, and I will be bringing more Force on Force to it. Of course, I will be doing my standard stuff for Force on Force, but I'm going to be pushing hard for Force on Force. I'm looking for some photos. I'm going to see if I can share my desktop here and allow it to, and it'll work. Maybe. Let's do this. Make that go away. So this is actually, if it'll work. Yes, this is actually from 2012.
That's Peggy sitting in the background.
Yep.
That's my wife sitting in the background at our booth.
Yep. So I got that one. And just some really great shots of the beautiful table. The table was just amazing. Here's my not so great table, but it's
it works. Yeah.
I can fit everything into a small a small box. That was the great thing about it.
You don't need a lot. You don't need a lot.
And people had a lot of fun with it. I was looking specifically for.
Oh yeah, I remember that too. I played in that big pirate game. That was
ball. That's the game that's been that was. They were from the University of Arkansas, and the rules they were playing was called Fistful of Seamen.
Yes. Nicely done.
Do that with what you will. So here's another shot of the game. This is one of the scenarios that I had created. And it basically, the Americans had to get to the chopper. It was downed. They needed to go in, rescue the pilots, and spike it before the bad guys got to it. That was September of 2011. They rolled all sixes.
Nice.
So, let's see. I'm looking specifically for. Oh, here we go. There you go. When y'all are introducing Tomorrow's War.
Right.
So.
And I look exactly like that now. Only I'm like really thin and muscular and ripped. Also, my hair has gotten a lot darker.
And you don't have this thick of glasses.
Yeah, right. I don't even wear glasses anymore. I don't have to. So, yeah. No, that's right. That's when we were introducing Tomorrow's War. Yeah. So that was I loved playing. I loved going to recruits and running things there. It was a lot of fun. The big difference between me now and then in that photo, honestly, is that my hair is about a foot longer. I've turned into a hippie in my old age working from home. So
yeah,
that's probably going to change in the near future. But
so
anyway,
these miniatures here, these are actually designed by a guy that actually my brother introduced to gaming in high school. He had, and I'm not sure if he's running it anymore, but he did run his Micro Panzer. And I'm sorry for just, I can't remember his name for the life of me.
I was sitting here trying to remember it too, so don't feel too bad. He was always Micro Panzer on all of the forums and everything.
Yeah.
So I think of him as Micro Panzer.
Yeah. It's good times. The recruits is probably, one of the best things about recruits was that you'd have kids there, and still do. You'll have kids there that are 12, 14, 15 years old, sitting right next to old grognards like us, playing games and having fun, and just having a great time. So I'm seeing if I have any other. Oh yeah, here's my Tomorrow's War game with the old cryomech resin domes. The miniatures, all of the miniatures here are, well, the vehicles are Combat Wombat. I don't know if he's doing stuff anymore.
I believe he stopped doing stuff, which is really stinks because I've got a lot of his stuff. He's such a nice guy too.
Yeah. And then all the miniatures are Micro Panzer miniatures. Let's see here. Get past all that garbage. And one of the things that I like, if you've got a big enough imagination, for me, Force on Force and Tomorrow's War can very much be like Fistful of Lead in the fact that I can play just about any infantry-based game I want to with these rules.
Yeah.
I am not stuck to just, Southwest Asia, Southeast Asia, the Bush Wars.
And that was one of our original goals, was we wanted to have a game that could cover, basically from like early 20th century on.
I could even, if I wanted to, if I had these miniatures from All Quiet on the Martian Front, again, with the right thought process and whatnot.
Hmm.
I could play Force on Force or Tomorrow's War with these
Oh yeah,
miniatures.
easy peasy. Yeah.
You just have to sit down and figure out what you want to do. Um, Hell, you could even play, you know, Colonials, American War of Independence, or you know,
It's funny because I had some people ask me, early on about whether or not they could use it for things like Colonials or Wild West or whatever.
Mhm.
And I said, sure. And they were like, okay, well, what kind of stuff would I have to change? And I said, well, you'd have to change your mental picture of the time frame involved in a turn, basically.
Yeah,
If you're playing Colonials where they're reloading, in between turns they're reloading. I mean, if you wanted to go crazy with it, you could, say a unit could only fire. If it fired one turn, it couldn't fire again until it had to miss a turn. But why? I mean, you just change the time scale and say,
exactly.
you know,
In
and
fact, when I was still living in Austin, we were doing a lot of playtesting of colonial, Boer War, Zulu War, uh, kind of time frame with the rules
mhm.
there at Great Hall Games. So, um,
It's definitely doable. I mean, and you have things like if you want to reflect the fact that the British can get off 3 volleys for every two or something like that their opponents, then give them some extra dice.
yeah.
So
Let's see here. There weren't a lot of games handling asymmetrical warfare back in the day. What inspired you to address this with Ambush Alley?
I'm not 100% certain because I'm not like a super duper games historian. Um, but I believe we were actually the very first commercial game that tackled modern asymmetrical warfare. And the main reason that we decided that we wanted to take it on was um, as a failed historian, I understood that in the future of modern warfare, and truthfully, the history of warfare in general has, other than for some certain periods of time, warfare's been asymmetric. I mean, that's pretty much the norm. It's not until you get into the big fights between nation states and things like that you know uh, that you see what we would think of as symmetrical or kinetic warfare.
Right.
Um, so that's kind of what made us want to do it, and you know one of our big inspirations, and this will sound goofy, but I think you'll be able to see it in the game. Um, was the action in Mogadishu in Somalia. The there it is. Yeah, there's your answer. Yeah, and the Bowden's book was just so um, I don't know. It just grabbed you by the gut. I mean, it really brought across the fact that you had you know this first world nation that was up against vastly outnumbered. And there was something really the drama there is huge. And
Yeah.
and my experience in games of all type is if there's no drama there, it's not a good game. I mean, it's even chess has drama. It's the drama between the two players. Um, but if you've got a game where it's just I'm moving some figures around, I'm throwing some dice, but it's not capturing my imagination, that's not a good game. So
Right.
so that's kind of, and also truthfully, we were inundated with it at that time. I mean, the game came out. We released the game in 2007. We worked on it in 2005 and 2006. I mean, we were right in the middle of GWAT at the time. We were right in the middle of, you know, Baghdad. The march up to Baghdad wasn't that far in the past. It was. That's what we saw in the news was asymmetric warfare.
Yeah.
And all the great sci-fi is, most of the great sci-fi stuff is asymmetric warfare. I mean, even going back to Heinlein with Starship Troopers, that's an asymmetric.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And Drake, all of his stuff, thanks to his Vietnam experience, he's basically, he's telling us a lot about his experience in Vietnam in his books. So that's my rambling explanation.
No, hey, I ramble all the damn time, so they're used to it. Mike Tracy says there were so few modern figures in 28 millimeter at the time, early 2006-07, except for Devil Dog designs. I moved into 20 millimeter and discovered an amazing amount of figures and armor, especially 1/72 diecast. Yeah, that's the thing about 20 millimeter.
Yeah,
is you can get just so much. And the thing is where in 28 millimeter, you're hard pressed to find 1/64, 1/56, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
20 millimeter is almost dead on 1/72 scale. And it just a plethora of models available, especially in modern.
Yeah.
M1s, M2 Bradleys, T-72s, Humvees.
Yeah, every variety of Humvee you can think of. I mean, I've got I've got like a huge box of nothing but Humvees down in my basement right now.
Yeah.
Oh, we need this one because it's got the grenade launcher, and we need this one because it's got the 50. And this is the one that I put the shot spotter antenna on, and yeah.
Yep. So Reese wants to know, can it do World War I trench rates? Absolutely, it can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had people do it.
Yeah. Again, you just have to maybe change your mindset on, the number of guys in your team. Instead of a standard fire team of 4 guys, you're running an entire squad.
Mm-hmm. You just bump the command
dice. Sure, means you're rolling more dice, but you're probably going to be doing a lot of 6s, and some 8s. Very rarely are you going to have 10s. You're probably never going to have a 12.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's again, if you just, once you understand the mechanic of at least for me, the prime mechanic and something that really drew me to it is it wasn't the gun.
Right.
An M16 is an AK-47 is an FNF.
FAL. Yep.
Yeah. FNFAL. A rifle is a rifle is a rifle when in modern times. Now, in World War II, I'm going to be making a differentiation between the Car 98 and the M1 by the M1s re-rolling ones.
Yeah. Our original deal was for the M1, we said that in original first, in the Ambush Alley version of Force on Force, the World War II rules basically gave units that were armed with weapons like the Garand or some of the German early assault rifles.
Yeah, the Sturmgewehr.
Yeah, we gave them bonus dice. It's because there was an outgunned rule, and if you had your enemy outgunned, then you could add that.
You got an additional die, I guess.
Additional die, yeah, and that doesn't sound like much, but
but it getting one more, D8 can make all the difference in the world.
Sure.
So I'm just going to step back for those that are not familiar with the rules. as Shawn said early on, and correct me at any point if I'm wrong, because part of the reason I'm doing this is as a function to remind me how the damn game is played, because I got to run it in 4 weeks. Is like you said previously, your target, you're going for a target number,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a 4.
Yep.
Doesn't matter whether you're rolling a D6 or a D12. If you roll a 4 or lower,
no, higher, 4 or better.
Yeah, 4 or better, it's considered a success.
Right.
If it's a 1, 2, or a 3, again, no matter what die type, 1, 2, or 3, no matter what your opponent is rolling, they're fails and they are not counted. And the other thing that I like about it,
well, it's a little different than that. We basically use the concept of contested rolls.
Right. Yeah, the opposed roll.
Right. So if I'm, if you and I are fighting a duel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've determined that that I go first, right? Then I'm going to shoot, and if I've got a D6 skill, if I roll less than a 3, if I roll less than a 4, I just miss altogether. There's no chance I can hurt you. It's done. But if I roll a 5 or a 6, then I got a chance. But you're rolling against me, and if you've got a troop quality of 10, if you roll higher than my 6, that I've rolled, then you win, and I'm the one that I don't hurt you. My shot still misses you, basically. Now, a duel's a bad example because you picture 2 guys standing out in front. The idea is that better quality troops use cover and concealment better than poor quality troops, and that's why they have a defense roll that uses their troop quality. So your object is to roll a 4 or better and higher than the people that you're shooting at.
Right.
And so
when I saw that was like, oh man, I've never liked the roll to hit, roll to save, roll to wound. It's like, ugh. It's
a big bell curve. It's in there for a reason. I mean, if I was going to design a tournament game, that's how I would design it too, because it makes it it levels the field. The guy that the dice are, the guy that's not quite as good at tactics may still win because on average his die rolls were better.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like I got lucky.
Yeah. So with what we tried to do when we designed ours, we had a kind of a different idea in mind. So we wanted it to, we tried to design the game in such a way that it rewarded real world small unit tactics. And I think we did a decent job because, we had the game used by West Point for training, for some training classes.
Yeah.
And we've had it used by a number of active military units for their platoon training and for their, oh man, my brain's not working. Where you draw on the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, so I think we did a pretty good job of doing that. But the other thing is, Robbie and I have a weird approach to miniature gaming in the first place. We didn't really play games so much to see who won. We played games to see what the hell happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the stories that came out of the games were more interesting to us than, our win-loss record. We never kept track of that stuff. But boy, we knew about the time that, the guy got the lucky shot that took out the tank commander. And so the tank failed its, morale check, and that opened it up to getting hit by a tow missile on the next turn or something. That
exactly,
kind of stuff. Yeah. That we remember.
It's the story.
It's the story. Yeah. And we designed it to be a very narrative game. I mean, there's like some big differences in just even in like scenario design. Most games. Well, I shouldn't say that. A lot of games. There's plenty of games out there that do it exactly the same way that we do. We're not like, so I don't want to make it sound like I'm talking people down, but a lot of games, the scenarios involve, okay, we're setting up across from each other across this 4x8 foot table, and we won't be within shooting range until we move in, a foot or 2 feet or a foot each from the
Right.
edge. So the first several turns are just, or at least the first 2 turns are just us moving, and it's boring.
Oh yeah.
So our scenarios a lot of times start in media res. It starts off with you are in this building and your Amtrak is broke down in front of it, and you are surrounded by insurgents, and you have to figure out how to hold on long enough for the QRF to get there and save your butt.
Right.
And that's like the common. Most of our scenarios start out the bullets are already flying at the beginning of the game, and
exactly. Yeah, you start off in the shit, as it were.
Right.
And that's the other thing I like. One of the things I've always had problems with other games is the limited weapon distance. It's the amazing year 40,000, and
you can shoot
my 75 millimeter exploding rocket assisted shell goes 16 inches.
Right. Which isn't even anywhere near the edge of the table. Even
right.
It's not even going to. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and when my miniature is already an inch and a half tall, that's 6 feet. Well, 16 inches. You're talking what?
Yeah.
Less than 100 feet. I know scale compression, all that, but still,
yeah.
Come on.
I was going to say, but wait, there's ground scale and there's figure scale, and but no, I get you, and that was one of our things too. I mean, that was another one of our, our initial. One of the first things that we decided when we were designing the game was that, we wanted to play it on a fairly small table. Right. I mean, originally we designed the game for 15 millimeter. I mean, the original Ambush Alley rule book has nothing but 15 millimeter photos in it, and I have a huge collection of 15 millimeter stuff. And so we played, and we played. Most of our games were played on a 2-foot square table.
Yeah.
In fact, all of the scenarios in the original Ambush Alley rule, books, like, they were all 2-foot tables. So we were like, it looks stupid for you not to be able to shoot completely off the table. If it's in line of sight, a rifleman's going to be able to engage it. Now, if it's closer, they're going to be able to engage it more accurately. So that's why we went, instead of going with a maximum range, we went with an optimum range. And we said, okay, based on the troop quality that you have an optimum range, and if you're firing at people within that optimum range, you get bonus die. You get a bonus die.
Yeah.
Do you see like a trend there? I mean, kind of a motif is that was our answer to a lot of stuff was gain a die, lose a die.
Yep. My brother is in the house. He says, in media res in Latin, it means shit just got real. Joey, the junior war gamer, says hi. Hi, Mike. Chris Long was waving to Jay, and Jay says, hey, Chris, eh? Yeah, and I think that's another thing that really drew me to the game was that it felt, I don't want to say realistic, because at no point in time am I, as a middle-aged graying individual that was in basic training 30 plus years ago with a bad back, I am never going to have the experience that someone like my brother had
Right.
when he actually was deployed to a combat zone.
Right.
So I don't want to use the term realistic because it's not. It's fantasy. Every game, and it's every game that we play on the tabletop is fantasy.
Sure.
Whether it's ultra modern, whether it's World War II, whether it's the Amazing Year 40,000 with space slugs and giants in power armor, it's all fantasy.
Right, because nobody's life is changed forever by the outcome of the game.
Exactly. And that's the thing to remember is it's a game. Now, does it give a realistic outcome for our little models, our little toys? Sure. You know, this little guy right here, he just got shot. He's dead. You know, Jim's in the house. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Jim. How's it going, buddy?
I'm glad to see you, man.
Jim also a huge contributor to.
Yes.
He's listed as he's an author on several of our of our books. He's
Mhm.
He was a partner of the company during the
heyday.
Osprey years. Yep. He's
Yeah.
he's responsible for Cold War Gone Hot and
Love that book.
and Classified. I mean, he was the driving force pretty much behind both of those books. Those are my two favorites. I mean, honestly, which I just said, hey, Jim did these, and they're my two favorites. So what's that tell you about my design chops, I guess? But yeah, those are two of my favorites. Cold War Gone Hot was neat. We had a neat concept there.
Mm-hmm.
That and again, credit for this goes to Jim. We divided the book up into three parts. What we thought World War III would be like, or I should say, what we thought a confrontation with the Russians would be like during the Cold War. When we were Cold Warriors. What it probably would have actually been like, knowing what we knew, after the Cold War. I think we now know that would probably be considerably different than even what we thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim, that's true, I guess. And then the third take on it was what Hollywood thought it would be like.
Yeah.
And
So,
and that was a ball. I mean, that was just a ball.
And I like how the headers are written. It was perfect. Cold War fears, Cold War realities, and Cold War fantasies.
Yep.
And the first scenario, I almost said episode. The first scenario of Cold War fantasies is called Badgers. For those who know, you know.
And that's another. That was one of Jim's babies. That one in the get to the chopper.
Absolutely love it. My brother Jay says, of course, Classified is a fave. We had a scenario in it. Yeah. For those that don't know, I don't know where my copy is. It's bugging me. I'm gonna have to go dig for it. My brother and I came out, we had been on the playtest team, and Shawn came out and said, "Hey guys, we need scenarios for this classified book. What do you got?" And my brother and I wrote up a scenario based off of Force 10 from Navarone, or the Guns of Navarone.
Guns of Navarone, yeah.
So
great pictures from Pierce for that one.
Yes, absolutely. So my brother and I are published game scenario designers. So thanks to you, Shawn.
You're welcome. Hey, that's another thing that we really enjoyed. I mean, from even pre-Osprey, we reached out to, that's how Pierce got so heavily involved.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim, same thing. We got people. We got to know our fans, I guess we call them. You know, our
Yeah.
customer seems too cold. You know, so we got to know our fans, our players, and you know, we reached out to them for stuff like, you know, hey, you know, what do you want to see us do next? And you know, and if you do want us to do this, we don't. I'm not an expert on that. You know, so if we do that, people are going to have to help. You
Right.
know, and we had, you know, we were fortunate enough to have so many people that were deeply knowledgeable about different periods of military history, and grasped the game, you know, understood it, that, you know, it was fantastic. We gave a lot of people a lot of chances to see their name in print, and you know, so yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty neat.
Chris Long says Cold War is my favorite book. Thanks, Jim. And Jim says we couldn't say Wolverines.
No,
Yeah, and it couldn't be in Colorado, so Wisconsin and Badgers just makes sense, right? So both Mike has asked and my brother has seconded the motion. What's coming up in third edition? What are you bringing back? What are you improving on? And is there anything just completely new?
well, everything in the game now is going to be done with a D4, and no, I'm just kidding. Wouldn't that be fun to try to convince a bunch of grognards to play with D4s?
There's a handful of caltrops.
I had a hard enough time getting them to buy funny dice. There's still people who refuse to play our game because it uses funny dice.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, for the most part, I think it's going to be familiar. I don't think. Here's what I'm not doing. I'm not getting the system. Okay, that's not going to happen. I think that people enjoy playing the game the way it is now. You know, it's stayed very popular despite, you know, my honest lack of support for it for quite a while. I mean, I just wasn't able to sink any time into it because of things that I had going on in my professional life. And you know, now I'm coming in towards the end of my professional life, and I want to try to get this thing rolling again. But so what we're not going to do is reinvent the wheel. I think that'd be stupid. I think people enjoy playing the game the way it is now. So the main things that I think we're going to try to address is write it better. I mean, one of our biggest issues that we had, you know, all along was that, you know, there were people, and it's real funny. It's a funny story. So here's the deal. So we wrote Ambush Alley. Nobody had any trouble understanding it. We literally had nobody ever ask us, I don't understand what's going on here. Everybody pretty much picked it up right away. Then we did Force on Force, and we had people say, okay, it's a great rule book, but it's not organized right. You know, it needs to be reorganized. And we had people give us copious notes about how it needs to be reorganized. And I thought, okay, well, when we do a new version someday, and you know, this was before the Osprey deal was even a glimmer on the horizon. Right. I was like, when we redo if we do a new edition of this someday, we'll reorganize it. So then bingo, bango, Osprey shows up and says, hey, we want a new edition. So I was like, aha, now I'm going to reorganize this thing the way everybody said it needs to be reorganized. So I did that, and everybody said, oh, this is a really cool game. The only problem is it's not organized right. So right. So you know, we're revisiting the organization, but I'm not taking input on it, basically. I know where it's at. We're gonna, you know, I've learned a lot in the intervening years about how to write a rule book and how to write rules. You know, the Force on Force, the Osprey version of Force on Force, way too verbose. I like to hear myself write. You know, I'm a writer. Yeah. You know, I've got a novel right now that's out, hitting different publishers. I like to hear myself write. but that's not a good thing necessarily for a rule book.
Right.
So
Exactly.
one of the things I'm going to do is I'm gonna shut the heck up a little bit and try to make the rules a little more concise. Then there's some other things I'd like to do. I'd like to tighten up vehicle rules. Um, I think the vehicle rules as they stand now work fairly well, but I think they could use some work. Um,
Yeah, a
the
little
big
tweaking wouldn't hurt.
the big problem is, it's a damned infantry game, and that's what I have. I have trouble. Where we really run into some trouble a lot of times is for people who want to run a major armor engagement with some infantry support, and it's like that's not really what we designed the game to be.
Not really.
Now, again, using Jim's name in vain again at Historicon. Jim ran a great game about the Golan Heights that was entirely a tank battle. There were no infantry involved in it at all, and it went really well. But over at another table, we also ran a game that was, set in Afghanistan, and there were some Humvees, and that was about it for vehicles. And that game also went swimmingly. So, but to my mind, the vehicle rules probably need a little bit of tightening up. The other thing that I think we're going to try to do, I should say, I think we are trying to do it, is to write the rules so that it's a lot more obvious that they can be used for whatever period you want to use them for. I'm purposefully my goal is to purposefully avoid making it look like I'm writing something about today's news. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's not going to be a game about Ukraine.
Yeah.
I haven't even started drinking yet either, is the sad thing, man. So I was like, oh, I got to be on this thing tonight. I better stay out of the whiskey until after the call's over with. But it's not helping much.
Quite all right. Quite all right. Hey, I have got more than enough time on this show doing exactly that.
I know it's pretty important. It's in the news right now.
Right? Yeah.
It's one of the larger countries in Europe, but I can't quite put my finger on it.
Right.
Seems like it's been in the history books a couple of times. Liechtenstein.
Yeah, Liechtenstein. Andorra is doing a flyover of France to get to Liechtenstein.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So the other thing that we'll probably include in it is the much awaited man-to-man rules. That were originally codenamed, just to give you just an indication of how seriously we take things at Ambush Alley Games. The original draft of the man-to-man rules that we worked on way back before the Osprey deal even. We just haven't ever completed them yet. But the working title for them was Hot Man-on-Man Action. So
there you go. A couple of more comments here. Jim says that was a great scenario. Well, if you're referring to mine, and my brother's, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. He said it just as I did. D4 equals caltrips. Yes.
Right.
Jeffy, you go sit down. Hex is one of the guys that comes onto the show from time to time. He's a board gamer, and he's just he's being daft.
There's a great thing. If you are a role-playing gamer and you use the full gamut of funny dice, there's a company called Double Sixes, and they make 12-sided dice that are 4-sided dice. So it's a 12-sided die with 1 to 4 on there 3 times.
Oh, that's cool.
So that you can actually roll it. They also make D12s that are 1 to 6 twice, so that again you can actually roll a D6 instead of
clunking. That's cool.
Yeah, love them. I use them all the time. Double
Chris Long
sixes.
says just can't win, referring to no. This is the way it needs to be laid out. Okay, lay it out like that.
Yeah.
No, that's all wrong.
Yeah, no.
Paul says, can you use the same name, Force on Force, for version 3, or does Osprey own that now?
Osprey doesn't own a darn thing. We own all of our IP. They were that was one thing they were very good at. We set up right at the very beginning just ironclad terms in the contract that the only thing that Osprey owns from the Osprey editions is the art that they contributed. That's theirs. I mean, that's done by their artists. The miniature photos, the maps that I did, because most of the maps were drawn by me, or they were drawn by me and then and then my graphic artist, not theirs.
Right.
Dixie, our layout artist, she did
amazing work.
Yeah. So we own all of that stuff. We maintain full ownership of all of our IP. So yeah, I can call it Force on Force if I want to.
Outstanding. Noah Doyle, new to the show, I believe, says never had a problem with the vehicle rules. Here's Jeffy now. How you doing, Jeff? Thanks for dropping in. You need to turn.
My bad. Hold on. Yeah.
Here's Jeffy now.
My bad.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think that's basically true, Jim. Yeah, you're right. If you want to play Ukraine, then look at the Cold War realities, and you got it pretty much set up. Except if anything, we overestimated the Russians. Still, of course, they were a slightly different Russia then than they are now. They hadn't quite been in the grasp of a kleptocracy as long as they have been now.
Noah also says, love Tomorrow's War by Dagger and Talon. Done 40K with it several times, and it's amazing. Yeah, it is. It's a great set of rules. It again, people have heard me say it all the time with Fistful of Lead, but with Force on Force, if it is a ground-based event from about 1910 forward into the amazing year 40,000, you can use these rules to play them. You just got to get your mind wrapped around it. Let's see here. And then, Jeff says, role-playing is that hot man action? Keeping it real, Jeff.
Yeah,
keeping it real. Hey. So, yep. Well, again, thanks for dropping in. And everybody that's come out new to the show, thanks for dropping in. I would love for you guys to subscribe. I'd love for you to give me a thumbs up. I am driving for 200 subscribers right now. I've been going for 200. I've been 182, 178, 182, 178 for the last 2 or 3 months now. I do have I do have a contest. If we get to 200 by the end of July, it's them bots. Yes, it is. If we hit 200 by the end of July 31st, midnight Central Daylight Time, then we'll have a drawing, and I'm going to be giving away at least some 1/6000 scale naval ships. These little guys right here. This is actually a Fubuki class destroyer. 1/6000 scale. Yeah, it is that small. I'll be giving away enough of those for, I believe, the first battle of Savo Island. And anybody that is subscribed to it, to the channel, will be eligible to win. There's probably going to be some other things. We've got a Chronicles of Not J t-shirt that I'll probably include. And what that looks like is this right up here on a blue t-shirt. It's also what the back of the my backdrop here looks like. So, and there may be some other things included on that. Who knows? But yeah, if we can hit 200 by the end of July, that'd be fabulous. We hit 100 late December. We had a pretty good thing going there, and for whatever reason, kind of dropped off in March on collecting new viewers. But for those of y'all that are new, please, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe. Okay, that's all that I've got for plugging the show in the channel. Anything else that you want to add? I would be completely remiss if I didn't bring it up for my buddy Warmutt. Brian Cox is a huge zombophile. And will Ambush Z eventually be brought up to the newer version of the rules, or are they going to remain quote unquote classic?
No, we plan to bring him up to date. In fact, there'll probably be some. One of the things that we're kind of working on for the book is to make it more. Like I said, we're going to try to make it less of a laser focused on modern military history and a little more. We're going to try to use a little wider beam on it. So there will probably even be some zombie rules in the original book. Yeah, I mean, it won't be the full treatment like you get in a full Ambush book, but it'll tell you if you're playing a game with zombies, here's how zombies might work. Yeah.
Here's some basic zombie rules. He's a huge zombie side fan. He's got like every Kickstarter and all the expansions, and he just goes nuts with them. So I'm hoping to be able to.
The first time that I played Zombicide, I was like, "Oh my god, this is Ambush Z," because it's so much like
buying
Ambush
so
Z.
many games. I don't get it.
What's that?
I said, what's wrong with Brian buying so many games? I don't get it.
Yeah, right. This I got 150 in my show. I've got 150 bookshelves. Noah says, Shawn, I just want to say that I'm glad you're back in the game, so to speak.
I'm happy to be here too. I'm happy to get back into the swing of things. We're going to take it a little different approach. We're kind of getting back to our roots, really. I mean, we're going to, this will definitely be more, yeah, complete with brains, exactly. But we're kind of getting back to our roots here. We had an opportunity to work with a publisher, and we decided that just wasn't the direction for us to go. So we're kind of, the original Ambush Alley Games company started out as a, pretty much a guerrilla marketing, grassroots game. We earned a fan base. We didn't have any big companies backing us, and we made a pretty decent company for ourselves and put out some games that were equal to or greater in quality than the commercial games, games that were being put out by some of the major publishers back then. That's kind of what we want to do again this time. So it's going to be, it's going to be a slightly different experience. We had a lot more fun in Ambush Alley Games Chapter 1 than we did in Ambush Alley Games Chapter 2 with Osprey. That's nothing against Osprey. Osprey, right. Is a decent company. They treat it as well. But there's a big difference between being an indie game company and a corporate game company. And I just found I don't really care too much for, if I want to write a loser, I want to write a loser. If I want to, if I'm passionate about a topic and I want to do a book about it, I'm going to do a damn book about it. And right. people are either going to buy it or they're not.
And on your own timeline.
And on my own timeline, yeah. I don't.
because
Yeah,
if I remember correctly, it seemed like you had one at the printer, one uh, being getting final drafted, one in the middle of playtesting, and one just about ready to start pen to paper.
that's exactly what our schedule looked like. We did Force on Force Tomorrow's War and the 8 Force on Force supplements. We published or we wrote all of those within in less than a year and a half.
Yeah.
So pile those books up, and you can see how thick they are. And we wrote all of that in a year and a half. Now I say we because it was a big team effort. I mean, we had guys like you and Jay and Pierce and Lee
Yeah.
Neville and lots of people working with us. But
Yeah, all of that in about 18 months.
Is that
And-
Tomorrow's
and
War?
this-
That's
and we
not
don't
based off that.
What's that?
The Tomorrow's War. What's that? What's the base?
It's the Force on Force rules, but for sci-fi.
Okay.
So, and this is minus the one book. Again, I'm it's bugging the hell out of me where it is. Because I've got to complete. I've got to complete. What's that?
It's underneath Normandy 44.
No, it's not. Yeah, I got to tell you about that here after a while, Jeff. But yeah, no, it's all the supplements and
it was
for
yeah,
in 18 months.
It was grueling.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I remember getting updated emails for each book that was in progress about every 7 to 10 days.
Yeah.
And it was okay. I got an email from Shawn. Which book is it this time?
Yeah, we stayed very busy. It was definitely a grueling schedule, and it's funny that I have to. This will crack you up, but because I've never held the title project manager in my day job, I'm not recognized as having any project manager skills. So
you got project manager skills in spades, my brother.
That's a
base camp hell.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Base camp was just constant. Just blah, 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 blah.
So the job I had prior to where I am now, I worked at a lumber yard, and a family-owned lumber yard here in Western Illinois. One location, but we were transferring from one computer system to a new computer system, and the new computer system company, I was part of the deployment team because I'm the one that had knowledge of computers. And they said, okay, so we're going to use this piece of software to communicate, different deployments and whatnot. And it was Basecamp. I was like, oh, son of a bitch.
Can't get away from it.
I got a question for Shawn.
Uh-huh.
Earlier, I had the stream on it, but I've been running around here doing so many damn things. I didn't have a chance to get on here until now. But I heard you mention at the start you deal with law enforcement every day. What do you do?
I work in the public safety software industry.
Well, good, because I am a CAD mapper.
Oh, well, there you go. All right. Then,
I'm a GIS guy for a county. So, yeah, I heard that. I said, well, I don't know what he does.
That's what I do. And I never got deep into the GIS side of stuff. I know enough to get myself in trouble talking about Esri and things like that. But
Esri, baby. You don't work for Central Square by chance, do you?
I did work for Central Square, but I don't any longer. No.
That's our baby.
Yeah, I work for ComSys now.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So
I was curious. Sorry, didn't mean to cut that.
Oh no, that's all right. I don't mind.
Paul says the same thing happened to me when I was involved in co-writing those 2 bolt action books. Osprey burnt us out. Hey, Paul, it was crazy. I mean, it was a fun time.
He put up.
What's that?
You see that sexy bronze picture he put up on his video?
Mm-hmm. No, don't get me wrong. It was a great time. I had a lot of fun going through the rules. If I remember correctly, the reason my brother Jay, got original credit for playtesting was this book right here.
I believe so, yeah.
I believe you originally had this at 2011. And he sent you an email or a message or something and says, no, that needs to be 2010.
Yes. I had forgotten about that, but that is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I had completely forgotten about that. That is true.
Yeah,
almost all of those covers have, well, not almost all of them, but a lot of those covers have little Easter eggs on them too. Yep. That's
your
that's my high school.
Yeah. They're the
plainsmen. The plainsmen. Yeah.
Because everything is plain about Enid.
Absolutely. And the helmet on the cover of the Vietnam War book, yeah, that's all. That stuff was written on my helmet. So yeah, we had a lot of fun, and there's some other stuff.
It's born to loose.
Correct.
Not born to lose. It's born to loose.
Yep.
Oh. Yeah, it's
I had other fun stuff written on there too, but it wasn't as appropriate as that.
Now, is this artwork Osprey artwork?
That is all Osprey artwork.
Okay.
Yep. That we will not see again, unfortunately. That's
was that a toe on top of a Humvee?
Yeah.
Yep.
Damn, my last unit I had freaking 18 of those.
Yeah, this is the Road to Baghdad book, Iraq 03.
I think we're the first company that wrote about the well, I think from a historical perspective, a lot of those are firsts in the industry.
Yeah, I'm almost positive that let's see here. This was one of the very first ones about the Bush Wars in Africa.
Right.
And I'm just looking to see
Jose
Ventura.
I don't know why I was having trouble with his name. From Portugal. Really big contributor to that one because he works for their war college basically and had a lot of good solid information on the Portuguese colonial wars. So do you want to know how the secret history of classified?
Yeah.
It's kind of a funny story. Well, it's not really funny, I guess, but it's an interesting story. We won't be interesting if I keep digressing like this before I actually tell the story, but that's my storytelling style. But anyway, they originally wanted us to do a book about I don't even really know how to describe it. Just all the bullshit in South America in the 80s. That's what they wanted us to do a book about. And I was like, really? That's what you want us to do? And I was like, Bush Wars is a good book and I like it. And there was some, great research that went into it, but it walked the very edge of my sensibilities. And I just was like, I'm not going to do another book well, I'm not going to do a book that's explicitly, is going to involve, you know, death squads going up against villagers who don't have any choice in which side they're on, and
Right.
there's no entertainment value in that for me. And
Right.
so I said, I just told him, I was like, I refuse to do it. I'm not going to write that book. And I said, here's what I'll do instead. I'll do a book about special operations for you, and it will include at least one South American, modern South American scenario. So that's how Classified was born, and that actually, of all of the the companion books, that was our bestseller. So that one, we sold more copies of it than any other of our supplements. And again, that's a Jim Roots special. I mean, he was pretty much the managing editor on that book, so he did a great job.
Yeah. So Paul says I would have loved that book. So what you need to do, Paul, is if you don't already have it, grab a copy of Classified on PDF and see the one scenario in there from South America, and then build your own. That's the great thing.
It's funny because I get a lot of people are, one of the things that people are kind of put off from with Force on Force and Tomorrow's War both is that we don't have a points list for armies, right? I mean, you can't go in and say, how much does an NVA cost?
Yeah.
It's just not in there. But that goes back to our concept of, we're more interested in the story that the game tells than we are in whether or not it's a fair battle. Most of our rules, most of our scenarios are not fair. I mean, it's kind of hard to do a fair face-off, in Baghdad in 2003, right? I mean,
yeah,
there was nothing fair really about that.
No.
So the way we handle that is with victory conditions, and we say, okay, it doesn't really matter how much of Saddam's guards you take down, because you're gonna take down a lot of them. You're gonna blow up a bunch of their vehicles. You're gonna shoot a bunch of their infantry. That's great, but that's not what's going to win you the game. What's going to win you the game is accomplishing your mission. If your mission is to secure this intersection or whatever, if you don't do that, you're going to lose.
It doesn't matter how many guys you kill.
Yeah, because that's not how operations work. Operations aren't about body counts. Other than a certain period of time in Vietnam, apparently, and even then only at a strategic level, not really at a tactical level. The colonel on the ground who was running operations did not. Was the only reason he was interested in body count was because it made McNamara happy. So,
right.
So it's very easy to make up your own stuff. Yes.
No, it says it would get dark real fast. Yeah, it
yes,
would.
it would. It's not my thing. Yeah.
Beckus was talking about an Arab-Israeli book.
So here's the deal about an Arab-Israeli war, and I wish Jim actually could talk, because he could probably address this better than I can. We seriously looked at doing an Arab-Israeli book. We really wanted to, but here's what stopped us. It's not really there's not really a bunch of good infantry actions in the Arab-Israeli war. I mean, it's
it's a lot of armor.
It's a lot of armor, yeah, and
sleeving 155s down to 105s and lobbing shells 30 miles downrange.
Yeah. It's just not. It doesn't fit our rules don't fit that. Somebody else will write a game that works better for that. Our game doesn't necessarily. No game is 100%. There's no game that you can use to play anything, and that's one place where I think I wouldn't use force on force to play the Battle of Kursk either.
No.
It's just it'd be silly.
I mean, you could, but
Sure,
how satisfying of the game would it be?
Yeah, So, yes, Jim,
absolutely.
That's correct.
I can't tell you how many times when I was in Austin, how many times I was told, "Oh, I won't play that game because it doesn't have points." You're missing out, buddy.
Yeah. We actually had a really nasty. Yeah, exactly. If you're in a fair fight, you're screwed up. Yeah. We actually got a really nasty letter sent to Osprey from one of the big game shops in Texas. I don't know which one it was, where they went on at length about how we sucked and we would always suck, and
that game store
uh-huh.
was on North La Mar in Austin, Texas. It's called Great Hall Games.
Awesome.
That was my game store, and
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing about that is one of the guys that was wanting to do a colonial, Zulu war type, rendition, or Northwest, the Afghanistan, 1800s Afghanistan,
right?
That was his game store also.
Yeah.
So I found it out because they said, yeah, we sent that letter into Osprey. I'm like, oh, you idiots.
Yeah. Osprey sent it to us and said, I guess you don't want to go down there.
Hey, I was proselytizing hardcore. Some of the guys even ran a Firefly game using Tomorrow's War, using
cool.
Purple Bellies versus Brown Coats.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it worked great for that. Yeah, you got it right, Noah. I mean, that's exactly right. And Full Spectrum Warrior, yeah, I love that game. I played that too. Good console game back in the day. Yes, that's exactly what it'll be. I was trying to keep that under my hat. But,
you figured it out.
You figured it out. We've gone from the invisible, the empty battlefield to the drone battlefield, and so now it's just going to be, and the miniatures will be great. They'll be very easy for you to get, because we're thinking that they'll be like little micro drones too. So you'll just be able to use, like, you can put like straight pins in the table, and that'll be each of the drones. Yeah. No, that's not what we're going to do. Drones already took. It's funny. If you take a look at Tomorrow's War, one of the things that I kind of pat ourselves on the back for Tomorrow's War is, if you go through and look at Tomorrow's War, I shouldn't say we describe the modern battlefield. I mean, it's all there. I mean, from the use of drones to the use of
communication markers,
all of that. It's all in there. Counter battery fire that's deadly accurate, and so yeah, if you want to play cutting edge moderns, Tomorrow's War is probably the way to do
it. And at the time, 2011, that was Tomorrow's War. It's what's going to be on the battlefield. We expected 100, 150 years from now, and no, it's 10 years down the line.
We had people. We literally had people, tell us that drones weren't ever going to be that big of a part of. So that was always fun too. Then don't use them.
Jim says a lot of armor in Arab Israeli, and Osprey wanted us to hold off because of sensitive topics for some reason.
Right. Yeah, they weren't happy about it. Horseback, we actually have those. We have mounted troops, and they work. They've got horse movement. Most of them, I mean, it works the way it works in real life, less than the way it works in the movies. The horse troops ride up, dismount, and fight, and you don't see a lot of actual cavalry actions anymore.
Yeah.
And if they do decide they're going to fight from horseback, then there's penalties for it. I'm going to have to put you on mute for just a second. Leave you guys to your deal. I got to handle something real quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Be right back.
Yeah, so there is. I don't remember which book it is, Reese, but they're in there. I think it's one of the I think it's the Afghanistan book, maybe, because we did have troops in Afghanistan on horseback. Noah, you can do tech level 3 drones versus non-grid infantry in tomorrow's war. It's brutal. Oh yeah, it is. It's egregious. It is. Ooh, it's rough. But you get enough of those no-grid infantry, and enough D6s rolling can take out a D8 or even a D10. I've seen it happen. This is, I believe, for Beirut in '82. There was a lot of infantry combat. You could do a book about U.S. forces, UN, and Israeli in Beirut. You could, yeah. The other thing that really got me to like this game is that it wasn't an I go, you go. And again, for the uninitiated, for those that don't know, what is you figure out who, either in the scenario or by roll, you figure out who is has initiative, and the initiative player picks one of their fire teams and does their action. The opponent, the non-initiative initiative player, there's the IP and the NIP. The IP chooses this unit to do whatever. The NIP has the option to then interrupt what that unit or what that fire team is doing from one of the other fire teams in a line of sight. So they can either move to cover, they can fire on them while they're moving, or they can return fire, interrupting the IP's fire. Where a lot of people got wrapped around the axle, got difficulted, was the chain of events that could spiral out of control, if you will.
Yeah. I'm back, by the way. Sorry
that's
about
fine.
that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was talking about one of the other reasons I really enjoy the game is because of the activation. It's not an I go, you go.
Yes. Yeah. We use a reaction chain.
Yeah.
That's something I should have brought up. That's another thing that in the new rules we've put more limitations on it.
Yeah.
So to try to keep it from
what I would always do
critical mass, like you were talking about.
For convention games, I would only allow the IP player could only react to a reaction once, and the non-IP player or the non-IP could not react to that reaction. So
right.
It's IP activates, non-IP reacts, IP then can react with another team, and that was it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Reese says also, I'm thinking of the 10th Mountain Division's mounted recon troop in Italy. Yep. Mm-hmm. Noah says the initiative system is fantastic, but reaction chains can be odd. Yeah, and that's why I curtailed it greatly.
Yeah, it's the reaction chain. It's one of those deals where a lot of it too depends on the way the table is set up. I mean,
Yes.
We had, we designed the rules with the idea that the game would almost always be played on a relatively cluttered table with a lot of line of sight breakage.
Yes.
And you start playing it on a relatively open plane where everybody can see everybody else, and their reactions just run out of control. So,
Right. It got crazy.
Yeah.
Bunkhouse says cool stuff. I'm going to have to check out Force on Force at some point.
Excellent.
Bunkhouse, if I think I heard that you are planning on being at Battles and Brews at the end of July. If so, I am running a Force on Force game. You're more than welcome to join me. So, anything else you want to mention?
We're gonna, like I said, one of the things that we're probably going to do a little bit differently this time is we are gonna, we're gonna kind of grassroots this thing up. So one of the things that we're considering right now, this isn't in concrete, so don't hold me to it. But one of the things that we're considering doing right now is putting together an initial, basically proof of concept draft. And what I'm thinking about doing is, I'm thinking about putting that together so it still looks like a nice game. It still has some art and it has a decent cover and things like that. It's not just going to be a Word doc, basically.
Right.
And we're thinking about putting that out and putting it up on War Games Vault.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll take feedback on that from people who are playing the game. And we will continuously update that doc or that rule book so that if you've bought it, I don't know if you're familiar with War Games Vault, but once you've bought something, if it's updated, you go in and re-download it. It doesn't cost you anything extra. So people would be able to, continuously download copies of that game, as we revised it and as we tweaked it, moving towards the actual release version, which would come out sometime next year. And they'd be able to, play the game, A, before the full commercial release, and B, they'd have access to it so they could give us input about, what they liked, what they didn't like, what they'd like to see more of, less of, etc.
Right.
So it'd be kind of a living book that you would buy and hopefully enjoy at your table and then
be a part of getting it brought to full bloom, as it were.
Right. And everybody who buys a copy of it on War Games Vault will get recognition, as being one of our early supporters, and we'll probably do something nice for them. So, but again, like I said, that's kind of still up in the air. So yeah, I mean, we got some people on here. What do you guys think of that? Do you think that sounds like would that something that you do, or does it sound like something you wouldn't do?
No, I dig it. It's been a long time since I've got Force on Force on the table. I'm excited about getting it back out. I always loved the game. Everybody that has played it with me has loved the game. I'm here for grassrooting this sucker back to quasi prominence.
There you go. One of the things I'm disappointed in is I'm not in it. We didn't make it into any. People were putting out those histories of miniatures books or miniatures games, and I didn't make it into any of those things. I was like, that's kind of, I take that personally. I feel hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? When their second edition comes out, we'll be sure to wrap some skulls.
There you go. There you go.
Noah says, "Hey, I'll happily beta test the new stuff." Paul Bexon says, "I'll join up."
Cool.
Jim Roots just ran Ambush Valley in 28 last month. Very good.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. And I bet it looked great too, knowing your stuff, Jim.
Yeah. Paul Bexon says, "I'll get my Modern Chinese versus Aussies out of the shed." There you go.
That's a cool. That's cool. Yeah. Thanks.
This is a great idea. Noah says grassroots indie miniature agnostic games are where it's at. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
My two all-time favorite games are Force on Force and Fistful of Lead. And there's room for the great thing is there's room for both on my table.
Sure. Well, one of the things, one of our rules, even on our forum, is we say, and I say it more eloquently there because I'm better at writing than I am at talking.
Yeah.
But we say, hey, don't come on our forum and bag on other people's games.
Right.
Because,
yeah.
You don't need to. You're not going to make any points by talking bad about somebody else's game to me, because that has nothing to do with me. It's
Right. Exactly.
Plenty of room in the pool for everybody.
Yeah. Now, are there some games that I won't have anything to do with? Absolutely.
Same here, but I won't. But I'm not going to go out and bag on them.
I won't go into great detail as to which ones I just absolutely cannot stand. Mike says it sounds good, but I'd love a book. So this is what the deal with that, Mike, is that we start off with a PDF that's a living, breathing document that we get to have the input in. So when the book comes out, I don't want to say it's exactly what we want, but it's something that we all can be proud of and say, I was part of this when it comes out.
Right.
So,
and when we put out the production version, there will be a book.
Yeah. So, Noah says, Shawn and Company, are you aware of Pulp Alley? It's a beautiful application of Force on Force-ish systems to a skirmish level adventure game.
Yeah, that Pulp Alley is run by Dave Phipps. You'll find his name in the original Ambush Alley rulebook as one of the contributors. He used to live literally down the street from me. So yeah, I'm aware of it, and he was a partner in the early days, and we kind of parted ways. And he had been working on that pulp game for us, and we were, and we said, take it with you. You've done the work on it. We don't want to take it from you. So he took off with Pulp Alley and started his own company, and yeah, it's a cool game.
It is. I like it.
Yeah, it is. It's a really cool game. And Dave is a really cool guy. Dave's neat. I knew him when he was a kid.
Yeah. Assault Checkers. There you go. I did not know that about Dave. So
yeah. Well, Dave, ask Dave if he knows Shawn and Robbie, and he will either say, "Oh yeah, I know Shawn and Robbie, they're nice guys," or he'll say, "Oh yeah, I know Shawn and Robbie, those assholes." So it'll be one or the other.
Either way, he's telling the truth.
Either way, he's probably telling the truth. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. No, I don't think you'd say that. Dave's a good guy.
No. Well, Shawn, you've been with me for about 2 hours now. We've been going for about 2:25, 2:23, somewhere in there. One quick thing here. Jim says, Shawn, I finally adapted Force on Force to Dark Ages Warfare. I've run it at convention. It's called Faith and Fury, which sounds like Force on Force. It works with modifications. That's cool, Jim.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
So, well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We at one point in time, we had, I think we topped out at 18 viewers, which may be close to the most I've ever had on concurrent viewers at one time. So thank you for that, Shawn. All the new folks that have dropped by to listen to Shawn and I talk about Force on Force and Ambush Alley games. And I appreciate y'all dropping in. Hope y'all stay around. I do a show every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central Daylight Central Standard Time, U.S. So for those in Australia, it's tomorrow morning already. For those over in Europe, it's also tomorrow morning already. But yeah, I'm glad for that, Paul. Again, Paul is one of my early on viewers. He's one of the good guys out there. He's got some really great stuff. Oh, if y'all have not already done so, see if you can't find the Ambush Alley Games Discord. There's got a lot of great information on there, a lot of sharing. Also, remember, we got my Discord with a lot of sharing as well. So, Jim, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that. Yeah, and for those of y'all that are new, please, if you like what you've seen so far, give me a subscribe. Like I said, I do one of these shows every Wednesday. Sometimes it's miniatures, sometimes it's board games, sometimes it's just asinine BS. But we always have a good time and always enjoy people coming in and being part of the conversation. That's the real reason I do this is to make it a community and love to have you guys here. So gonna go ahead and finish these up real quick, and then we'll call it a night. Noah says, thanks for doing this. I'll drop in when I can. Absolutely, Noah. And you can always come back and watch. They're always up on YouTube. This is episode 73, so I've got 72 more of these back there. And I'm going to start having more Monday and Friday videos. I had done those for a while and then dropped off. Wife, Jim just described. Give my regards to Peggy, Robbie, and the boys.
I'll sure do
Jim.
it. I'll sure do it, Jim. Same to you.
No need to learn how to use Discord. It's not hard. Just jump in there and go at it. He also subbed. Thank you so much. Share that link on your Discord, Chris. I'll jump in. Hold on here. I can see if I can find. I know you're on mine, Paul. Discord's being a pain. All right, here we are. Ambush Alley.
And it's also on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I can. Oh, here we go. Invite people. Copy. Paste. Warmutt, you're not just late. You're horrendously late. And we talked about zombies briefly, so yeah, please rewatch it, man. Warmutt's another one of the guys that comes on the show from time to time.
Awesome.
He is a former fine scale modeler.
Oh, nice.
That we turned into a miniatures gamer.
There you go. That's a good transition.
We thought about making him into a board gamer also, but he got a board game and had a heart attack.
Oh yeah, that's probably not a good idea.
So I hope you're doing okay, buddy.
If he's going to react that violently to it, you probably should just back off that whole deal.
So yeah, I just popped that in there. That's for the Ambush Alley Games Discord. So yeah,
and I'm on there pretty frequently. Peggy's on there. You know, pretty much all the time we're there. And if we're not, leave us a message. We'll get back to you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good conversation goes on there. There's a lot of good pictures being shared.
Yeah. And definitely share your photos up there, Paula, because your stuff is great. I love seeing your stuff.
We shared, in fact, the other day, we shared some of the original Ambush Alley playtest table pictures and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, the channels are updates, which only Shawn or Peggy can update to. Hanging out is just general info, game chatter, exactly what it sounds like.
Yep.
All the picks tables. So if you got a good looking table, and there are some good looking ones up there right now, you share them there. All the picks minis. Some great miniatures to be seen. Some really good stuff. Orbats for organizational tables and bat reps. So if you run a game, throw it up there. So,
yep,
there you go.
Everybody's welcome. Yeah, it's cool. Like I said, the our from our experience running our forum. God, I wish we still had our forum. Just hackers just would not leave us alone. We were like way up over 3,000 members at one point on the forum. But real basic rules. If you're on the Discord, basically don't piss other people off. That's pretty much it. Don't be a jerk.
I'm gonna be more forward. Don't be a dick.
Yes. The actual golden rule upon which all religions are based. Don't be a dick. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. We don't talk politics. We don't talk religion.
Nope.
But we do a lot of talking about what miniatures look cool and stuff like that. So we'd be happy to have you on there.
Yep. So, well, guys, thanks for joining in. You don't have to jump off right away there, Shawn, if you don't want to. But everybody, again, thank you so much for joining me. The list is long and resplendent tonight. I'm not going to go through all of y'all like I normally do. But one and all, thank you. Thank you for coming on tonight. Appreciate it. And definitely hope to see y'all next time. And excuse me. And until next time, we will see you on the flip side.